Greetings and welcome to another round of the Master Phil in Your Corner podcast. This episode number 93. Do the clothes make the man or the woman? What does what you wear say about you? So here we have like a brother from another mother on the podcast for the first time. So we're going to welcome Wayne Cloth. He's the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Majid NYC. It's a clothing manufacturer. So who better to have on here than someone who knows clothes? And starting from the bottom up or the inside out, shall we say. So, but you have been in hats and underwear and everything. So, Tracy, just tell Wayne, tell a little bit about yourself. And then it's funny because I also had Bob Pearson on, John Pearson. I'm used to call him Bob his whole life, but he's John. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we're going to get into this.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Ross, Sensei Ross. I've been in this business since, 2003, kind of backed into the fashion industry. I was working for NASCAR of all places, and met a guy at a racetrack who made most of the hats in NASCAR. And he said he didn't know anybody in the sport. Did I want a job? And I was like, I work for NASCAR. It's pretty cool. He's like, well, let me put a package together for you. Tell me what you think. He sent it to me and I said, okay, when do I start?
So hats off to that deal.
Yeah. But since then, I've worked on a little bit of everything. I really started to headwear, but I've made everything pretty much, from your feet all the way to your head. I've made socks. I've made underwear. I've made tees, hats. I've made at this point, I think 36 million baseball hats.
Wow.
If only had a nickel for every one of them, right? And other than that, right now, Majid is a 65-year-old fashion accessory house started by a Holocaust survivor. His sons run it now, and I help them run the business. We recently got into the men's underwear business, hence the Inside Out. I'm nicknamed in the industry as the Mad Hatter, but I've done a little bit of everything, and I've got a diverse background because of what I did before fashion, but also I know a lot of people in the industry, so I'm kind of a go-to for a lot of people because I don't whitewash my opinions.
I think it's better to stick with the Mad Hatter. I don't know if you want everyone out there the Mad Briefs or the Mad Underwear.
Yeah, Mad Hatter works just fine. I'm the Mad Hatter who happens to make underwear.
Yes.
No,
so the Latin saying "vestis virum," right? The clothes make the man.
Okay? Right. And
whether it's the man, the woman, whatever it is, it seems what I see in society now, and this trend has been going on for a while. People dress down and down and more down and more down. It's funny. I was watching one of the UFCs a number of years ago, and they had the Ultimate Fighter, and you had Conor McGregor and Uriah Faber. So Uriah Faber's wearing a t-shirt, shorts, flip-flops, and Conor McGregor is all decked out. He's wearing a three-piece suit with a nice tie, shoes, and so forth. And he said, hey, I'm rich like this. That's why I can dress like this. And Uriah Faber's like, well, I made it so I can dress like this. And then we see people like Zuckerberg in his t-shirt and so forth. So and then we see Elon Musk, who definitely is not in a t-shirt. He's usually in a jacket with a shirt, sometimes a tie, so forth. Right. But and then also we can even get into how people perceive people on the street, because I think that there's also an issue with that. If you see three guys coming toward you and they're dressed like in Brooks Brothers suits or Izod shirts or something, you think nothing of it.
Right.
You see three people coming toward you with bandanas, do-rags, piercings, stuff like that, holes in the jeans and cut off sleeves and stuff. You're like, oh man, I might have an issue here. So let's talk about these trends that have come upon. Oh, and another trend, of course, is all these women wearing yoga pants. It's all they wear is yoga pants.
Right.
Some of them I don't mind. Other ones, I think maybe it's a little.
It's all about one. it's all about one's perception of their self, right? I mean, the old story is the guy who walks into a Porsche dealership in a torn jeans and a t-shirt, and the salesman doesn't walk up to him, right?
Right.
But the guy's a millionaire, right? Needs to get in there to buy 3 Porsches. So, you know, clothing really, it's not necessarily what somebody wants the perception of them to be. It's just what they're comfortable in. It used to be in the day that you know, if you worked in, you know, white collar, you wore white collar, you wore a jacket and tie and shirt. Then it became business casual. And you know, the pandemic really has changed the way people dress, because whether they work remotely or work hybrid, so few people are actually buying suits and ties these days. I actually had this conversation the other day with one of my best friends that you know, Bruce Feniger, who is moving to Raleigh, North Carolina from New York.
He just got a new job.
Right. And he's moving to Raleigh, North Carolina from New York. And I said to him, will you continue to wear suits and ties? He said, yeah, that's who I am. That's fine. It's the same thing. What I tell people is, let's take it to hats. You know, you can't wear a hat. You have to wear the hat. Don't let the hat wear you, right? It's all about personality, you know. And interestingly enough, I was reading an article today about the Hells Angels and how, you know, the perception of Hells Angels is that they're all these either drug dealers or violent, and you know, that's not true about them. There's a lot of them who are working their community, but people's perception of what they see when people wear the colors is, oh, they're a specific person. So, you know, people will wear what they want to portray, right? It's, you know, it's the whole suburban trend of dressing, you know, urban, right? You know, that's great, but the reality of it is that you're not dressing to where you live, and that's fine too. People can dress however they want, right? I mean, I always tell people, if somebody walks into a room and you know, my joke is, and they think they look good, well, they must, because they dress that way, right? So it's apparel and clothing really, they used to make the man or woman. Now I think what it does is it allows people a little bit more creativity. You know, when I go to a trade show, you know, I wear jeans and a nice shirt, right? I haven't worn a suit in a business meeting since I think 2007. And so I very, very rarely see people in a shirt and tie.
Yeah.
You know, even in legal these days, you know, you look at that industry, and business casual is really the way to go. But on the other side, streetwear, I always joke, my kids call me, you know, I'm the world's oldest prep, right? Because I still dress a little bit like a prep, right? And that's just my style. But your style is, you know, it's personal to you. Pharrell Williams was just introduced as new head of men's design for Louis Vuitton. I mean, you know, does that mean that Louis Vuitton is going to take their entire men's business to streetwear?
Or is it just going to influence it somewhat?
Right. You know, and that's the thing. Then you look at, thankfully, you know, the whole.
Well, I know why that's going on. I know why that's happening. Why they want to have streetwear and Louis Vuitton. It's because of all like the shoplifting and smash and grabs that are going on. Right. Hey, you know, you want stuff you want to wear.
Right.
But what's the point? Just getting it, and I'm not going to wear this. Hey, I want to steal it and wear it.
But you know, the reality of it is, if you look at that market, right? I'm always amazed by the streetwear market, right? There's a brand called Supreme. It's been around for a while. You know, when Supreme does a release and you go to their store, there's 500 people waiting online to get into their store because they do limited edition stuff. It's the same thing with, you know, when the Jordans come out, right? Where people wait online, and that's fine. I'm not of the mindset that I would wait online for it, but you know, they create, you know, a need and a want, you know, and it's just, you know, if you were to take it into, for example, sagging has for all intents and purposes gone away.
Oh, wait a minute. I just saw these ads for some serious sagging. I mean,
But for the most part,
sagging and bagging down
Right.
to the knees. I mean, it was like the most.
for the most part,
silliest thing
though,
I've ever seen.
there's a very small cadre of people who are still following that trend, right? If you looked at streetwear in 2003, 2005,
Mhm.
it was more bright colors and bigger stuff, and it's almost gone for the most part preppy now.
Hmm.
It's gone the way of, you know, denims. It's gone the way of sweatshirts. It's gone collared shirts. You know, t-shirts have really fallen off. Print t-shirts have really fallen off. But the same thing, the new era 5950 baseball hat used to be required. That shape used to be required equipment for anybody who was in the streetwear or in fashion market. That's what they wore, right? And then it also was fedoras. So fashion it used to be fashion makes a man, and now it has gone to a point where fashion is fluid. And you know, if you've watched some of the award shows, you know, there's some gentlemen who are, you know, wearing what you would be called a dress, and you know, look, I may never wear it, and you know, as goofy as it looks to me, look, if they're happy and they're comfortable in their skin, you know, to me, it is what it is. It's like if you ever go to a big fashion show, right? And you see the women and men coming down the.
Oh, yeah, let's hold that thought right there. You know, you see these fashion shows, you see these people wearing these outrageous clothes, yet I've never seen anybody out wearing that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
I'm kind of like, maybe I'm not invited to.
No, that's exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah.
You know, that you know, fashion shows are meant to be aspirational, I guess. But in the big picture, you know, the vast majority of people, you know, will never wear that stuff. You know, a designer will do something outrageous to make a name.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. There's a business called ABS, which lives to take the looks off of runways, like at shows, like at the Oscars, that a $5,000 dress, and he'll sell it for $325. Right? There's always somebody who's going to capitalize on that, but high fashion is really for a very, very small percentage of people. If you want to hear a fact that people don't understand, 52% of all men in the United States, all men, buy their business attire or work attire at a Walmart or a similar store.
Yeah.
52%. And right now, the vast majority of business that is done in retail is done in off price in places like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and
Kohl's,
and
place like that.
Nordstrom Rack. But people don't realize that off price stuff, like if you go to the Under Armour outlet, the stuff's made for the Under Armour outlet. It's not leftover stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's people should dress however they want. Okay. Again, if you feel comfortable in it,
yeah,
you know, I mean, wear it. You know, I mean, it's, you know, it goes back to the old idea of a kilt, right? You know, those were men back then, right? Right. Guys who wore kilts were real men, and the Scots and the, I mean, you know, you can go back to the wars back then, right? Those guys fought wars in kilts, you know? So if you're comfortable,
they can hide weapons up there, though, I think.
Yeah, well, but you know, I mean, that's the thing about fashion. And if you want somebody to have a specific opinion of you, you dress a specific way.
This is where I'm going.
I knew that. That's why I threw that in.
Yeah. You know, if you know, I still believe that the dress to impress, you know, holds true in certain instances, especially, you know, you're going to a work function, you're going for an interview. You know, I would not show up to an interview in a t-shirt and shorts.
Right.
I don't think it's appropriate.
Right.
You know, I would at least wear a jacket, collared shirt, nice pants,
right,
and shoes. You know, because you used to be judged on that stuff.
Right.
But I still think that you are, to a degree, And, maybe people say, oh God, that guy's cool. He dresses down. He's got $5 million in the bank, whatever, $10 million. And he dresses like that. Whereas other people, hey, they want to flaunt it, that they have it, they've made it. Like if you look at maybe the difference between Conor McGregor and Uriah Faber,
Right.
Conor McGregor came from nothing.
Right.
So he aspired to see people in these suits and so forth, where Uriah Faber came from, suburban California.
Right. The surfer kid.
Yeah. So, and that's what he aspires to,
Right.
But the things, but do we think though, that people with what they're wearing either command more or less respect?
Conor McGregor is an interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
Because he dresses like that, right?
Mhm.
But he's well known to be, will reach out in rage and start fight, so while he dresses a certain way that's supposed to give a specific, vision, he doesn't act to that a lot of the time.
Well, most mob guys back in the day wore suits.
That's right. Absolutely. But we're not talking, the Teflon Don here. We're talking a perception, Uriah Faber, who was dressed like a surfer kid, when he was interviewed, never got mad at the guy and punched him.
Yeah.
So again, it's putting it, you dress to put out a perception.
Mm-hmm.
What you do after that perception is up to you. Yeah. It's just like streetwear, right? It's just like you talk about kids with piercings and everything else. Yeah. To me, would I wear that? No. Yeah. And I've interviewed kids who got lots of piercings, mm-hmm. and honestly, some of them are really, really smart, and some of them, mm-hmm. are great artists. But if I'm catering to a specific client base, can I introduce them to that client? Becomes the question.
Yeah.
And again, the line is, you can be as creative as you want, but we pay your check, we pay your bills. Right.
Because because if you have somebody working for you and representing you, your product, your company, and they, right. come in with holes in their pants and a ratty T-shirt, or like a shirt untucked, sloppy, or whatever, or hair all over the place. I mean, I don't have to worry, right. about that, neither do you. But they're not presented properly. So then the whole problem is like, well, gosh, you're not representative of what we want to put forward.
That's right.
But now then maybe they say, oh, you don't like me because of something else.
Right.
Be blamed on something else when it has nothing to do with that. And I would even go as far as to say that people in the street, when they're out and about, they're trying to convey a certain persona by wearing certain clothes. Like, maybe guys wearing a muscle shirt to show off.
Right.
Say, hey,
right.
I'm tough, don't mess with me, or something,
Right.
Whereas someone who, maybe dresses down, wears a long sleeve shirt and so forth, maybe they don't, they want to convey something different. Right. So, are people still getting that effect from the clothing? And are people dressing a certain way, trying to evoke a certain emotion, which would then preclude them to say, well, you don't like me because of this, that, and the other thing, or race, sex, whatever, right? But it really has nothing to do with that. It has to do 100% with the clothes that they wear and what they're projecting.
The perception of what they're projecting out there. That's absolutely right. And again, it's why companies have morals clauses. Mm-hmm. When I worked for NASCAR, right. if I were to have worn gone to the track and worn, say, a Pabst Blue Ribbon shirt, they're not a sponsor. Why would you do that? Right. These are our sponsors. Why would you do that? It's that would be me being a rebel, and they don't have to pay me since I'm now not doing something that suits my company. It's the same thing if you go to a trade show or an exhibit. What I'm wearing and I'm introducing myself to people will be the perception of my company. Right. So and it's why companies have gone to both a hybrid and in a hybrid. Look, if the joke is the guy's sitting there and he's got a shirt and tie and he's in his underwear, right? Well,
yeah, I'm not even wearing pants, but that's okay.
Right. Well, thank you. But the thing about it is that if
I am, don't worry.
If you're on I'm in shorts, but I live in Florida. But if you want to put out a specific perception of you, right? Like a lot of, kids want to be artsy. That's great.
Right.
I mean, yeah, if if they want to color their hair certain ways, that's fine. If you're an art director or a creative designer and you want to do that, if you're a salesperson and you're selling to Bloomingdale's, you might not want to show up with green hair.
No.
And not another example. So back when I started my career back in advertising, I still remember this vividly. I wasn't making a lot of money, and the salesperson who showed up to make the sales call came in with this really expensive fur coat. To this day, I remember that because, I'm not making a lot of money. Why would you make me feel bad?
Right.
And maybe she didn't understand that perception, but the perception was, look, you're making all that money, and I'm just this guy, schlemiel. People will accept what you put out,
Right.
but that doesn't mean they like it or want it. You can act however you want, you can dress however you want, you can say whatever you want, but the perceived value of what you wear and how you present yourself, depending on the situation, it's situational, right? You wouldn't wear a suit and tie to, whatever, one of the bars we used to the cellar, wouldn't wear a suit and tie to the cellar unless you were coming after work, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to Capitol Grill,
Yeah.
and you wore a suit and tie, nobody would think anything else of it. But if you showed up at Capitol Grill with a torn shirt, people might go.
Yeah, and people do, and I do see that, and I think that I don't know if that's the best thing because it just seems like we're just kind of showing that we don't care, especially when you see people who are very unkempt. People just threw something on. It's like that person doesn't care. Now, are they trying to portray that they don't care to be cool, or are they a person that really just doesn't care?
Right. Well, and that becomes an issue also because, it's not like everybody comes with a little primer trying to figure out who they are and what they are. It's when you first meet somebody, that first perception in a lot of ways is what you carry. Now, it may not be right. It's, over my career, I've met a lot of people who, I thought were wonderful people, and I found out they weren't. And I've met a lot of people who I thought were idiots, and they're great people. Unfortunately, the first image we put out, it carries a lot of weight with it. So again, if you're going back to the kids walking on the street, with tats and stuff, look, and this very well. It's wearing a tat used to mean you're a rebel. Right. I mean, I tell everybody the joke about when we went out and got our ears pierced, right? And we split a pair, and I came home, and my buddy at home's father goes, "So I hear you pee sitting down these days."
Yeah.
Right. It's but that was then. Now, tattoos are even passé. I mean, if you don't have a tattoo, or you don't have a piercing, or it's become generational. But even generations, our generation now, or people are tatted, and they're getting them now. It's not like they got them 20 years ago. Thankfully the old tramp stamp has gone out of. But the reality of it is that clothing as a base vision sets the very first perception you meet with somebody. You can change it afterwards, but
I think that's very important to note, especially when you're trying to put forth a certain image, and people have to understand that, and they can't try to blame it on something else. Listen, if you dress a certain way, you speak a certain way, that's going to leave that first impression,
right?
But if you're walking down the street and you're dressed a certain way, acting a certain way, that's going to leave another impression, and people will judge, based upon what you're presenting. Because obviously, if you're presenting that, like you said before, you dress how you feel. if you feel like you're a thug, you dress like a thug. You feel like you're on Wall Street, you dress like you're on Wall Street.
Right.
Feel like you're a doctor, you dress like a doctor, you know, and you present yourself that way. So, you know, these are things that that people have to realize and own. Hey, listen, man, there are times I knew when I dressed a certain way, when I used to ride my motorcycle, right? I dressed like a biker. I looked like a biker. And that's what I portrayed. It's what I wanted to portray. Now,
Right.
I didn't dress like that when I went to my sales job or when I went to go and teach a martial arts class.
Right.
I certainly wouldn't dress like that as a college professor. You know, I want to do something that's going to separate me from the students. Do I care if one of my students dresses like a biker in class? I care less. But will I do that? No.
Right. Right. Well, same thing. If you were to look at my son, who's an attorney,
Yeah.
out, you would never know he was an attorney. I think he's put a tie on 4 times in the last 3 years or something like that, you know, and that's because of the way the industry he's in with influencers. It doesn't really matter. Now, if he goes into a major meeting, of course, he's going to put on a tie and a shirt and probably a jacket, maybe not a jacket, but when he worked for a firm in New York, you know, he wore slacks and a shirt and a tie because it was the uniform for going in there. You know, the uniform, you know, the uniform you wear, again, same thing, you know, is set by either where you work or what you do. And fashion leads that a lot of ways. It's, you know, the whole, you know, business sleek casual thing has gone from a pair of slacks and a collared shirt to, you know, on a women's side, you know, it's athleisure leggings and a oversized shirt top, right? You know,
so like, where do you think that this trend is going? Do you think the pendulum will swing? People get a little more dressed up now? Do we think it's going to stay casual? Do you think we're going to keep this?
I think it's going to swing back a little bit as businesses are requiring people to come back to their office.
Yeah.
You know, you've been hybrid or you've been out of the remote for 3 years. Like Apple now is requiring people to come back to their offices, which I find interesting that all these guys are quitting their jobs because they're required to go do their job, right? You know, in an office as opposed to home.
Look at that.
You know, but, you know, they certainly won't let them come to the office wearing what they were wearing when they were working out of their house.
Right.
You know, I think it, you know, from what I see trend wise, you know, denim has kind of slowed down. You know, there used to be 100 denim brands out there. They've kind of reduced. You know, the untucked shirt look kind of remains. But that's because a lot of people are still out of shape, you know, guilty as charged. But, you know, for ladies, you know, I can't really speak on women's. I can tell you that, you know, boho was big this past season.
Yeah.
We're going back to a little bit more, not necessarily traditional, but I read another article this morning about the women on Palm Beach are very upset because the traditional Palm Beach wear is lily pullets are kind of bright and frilly, and they can tell the New Yorkers who've come down because they've got, you know, either wearing all black or all white or, you know, they're one color outfits.
Monochromatic.
Yes, I think that the one thing that will change about fashion is it will never stop changing.
Right.
You know, it's cyclical, right? You know,
so the only constant is change.
Trucker, right? You know, Paris Hilton brought back, you know, the trucker hat back in the day, and it's started to make its way back. Bucket hats went out 5 years ago. They've made their way back. You know, fedoras are kind of coming back now. You know, I think that Yellowstone and that entire market has kind of added a little bit of a Western flair to what some people are wearing. I always find it funny about the only thing I'm really offended by, and it's a stupid thing to be offended by, is the whole varsity jacket look. Because I'm of the mindset if you haven't earned the varsity jacket, you can't
wear it.
Right. You know, it's just
exactly.
It's just one of those things, you know, that, you know, sorry, it's the same thing that Averex had said the whole thing with the military look.
Yeah.
You know, with all the patches and stuff. It's like, dude, you're just not a jet jockey, so don't wear.
No,
Yeah,
so don't put it on. Hey,
right.
yeah, so I just want to, before we go today, I want to thank our sponsors. We have to thank, of course, philross.com, because without philross.com, we would not have this podcast. And, come there for all your training needs. You got to check it out. We have a Patreon channel now. We got pay-per-view flicks. We have Fit Team Nutrition. We have, of course, we have Health is a Wealth. You definitely want to get on that. It's a free virtual platform dedicated to health and wellness. It's a community outreach program. Definitely check out Health is a Wealth. And then, Tracy, how can people reach you? How can people reach you in your underwear?
Well, first of all, yeah, so I'm going to give my little simple spiff here. We founded a new brand about 6 months ago called Up Boxers, UP Boxers. It's upboxers.com. That stands for the Under Project. The mission of the, other than selling great boxers, is for every pair of boxers we sell, we donate a pair of underwear to an underprivileged child, and we donate 5% of net proceeds to charities that serve underprivileged children. So, it'd be great if people do that. Honestly, the underwear are great. You've worn them.
Oh yeah, got them on right now. I'm not
really
going to show them. I'm not going to show them, but I'm wearing them. I'm very comfortable here, if you could tell.
Yeah, our joke is, we put our heart and soul into getting into your pants. But that being said, we also Majid is majidnyc.com. We sell lots of nice lady stuff. You can find it in most major off-price retailers. Brands like Adrian Vittadini and Jones New York and Ellen Tracy. You can find me on Instagram at Mad Hatterisms, or at Upboxers. And, and then we have another brand, Williamsburg Hatters, and you can find that at williamsburghatters.com. But, feel free, if you have questions or anything, reach out on one of the Instagrams. We'll be more than happy to, to talk to you. We enjoy interfacing with people. At the end of the day, people make our business, right? We make clothing and apparel and accessories, and without, people,
Oh yeah.
doesn't exist.
I forgot something. I just got notification last night. My Body Bell Method certification seminar that is registered with both ACE and NASM just got registered. I'm a registered trademark now.
Cool. Terrific.
Yeah, so I'm pretty psyched about that. I just threw that up on LinkedIn. So, you'll see it on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm all over that stuff. Masterfield Industries, also Instagram at kettlebell_king, and there's also Body Bell Method there as well. If you want to see me fighting with people, check out Kettlebell King on Twitter. That's where we do most of the fighting. But
you don't do any fighting.
No. It's just funny when you just go Twitter. It's hilarious.
But yeah, no, it's been great. Obviously most people don't realize. I mean, they see us talking, but you've been my brother for 40 plus years now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
And I'm trying to follow your hairstyle. So.
Yeah, look at it. It's about time. Hey, listen, I said, both sides are having a race to the back. I figure I beat them.
There you go. So cool. No, it's been great. I'd love to come back again. And talk. And again, it's great that you do this stuff, because look, it's just two guys talking.
All it is. So having a good old time.
We're allowed to have an opinion. You don't have to.
Exactly. Well, I'd like to thank the audience for listening, and we'll see you next time. This is Master Phil, Strength and Honor.